Patch review. So the last few days have been quite a doozy. The devs came back on the whole, clusterfuck, the dumpster fire that was the post 2.2 release reception, at least on the Reddit as well as the forums, with a whole bunch of stuff happening. And on top of that, the channel sailed past 100,000 subscribers. So yay! We're doing quite well here, and today we're also going to be talking about some new patch notes. Yes, the developers have decided, you know what, because of some of the issues that the 2.2 patch came with, we're just going to cancel a whole bunch of PR-related stuff and full-on work on the development of the current patch, which is going to be 2.2.4. 2.2.3 has now been released, and you will get these cool emblems to tie you over with that. But yeah, 2.2.3 is now completely live, and there is a whole bunch of adjustments made there. For instance, you can now stop robots, droids, and synthetics to be stopped building. You can have nanite actuators, which increases research speed, and the null void beam now has its own icon. But of course, this was all part of 2.2.3, something that we already played extensively with in the various series in the last few weeks, at least after, you know, soon right before Christmas, I think. That was added to the beta line, or the beta branch. But now we're here for 2.2.4 because the devs have done a significant amount of work on the various versions of the game, or at least some of the balances. Now, it's very important to note that there is a vast improvements in average years per hour, which basically means that performance overall should have improved quite a lot on the 2.2.4 patch. So you can opt into this one by going to your settings on your various launchers, and then go to versions or betas, and then the little drop down menu and go to the test version. But yeah, this is the Legion set of Empire emblems. I kind of like them, actually, especially these ones, and I particularly like this one. It's like a star inside of a nebula, so that is kind of cool. Anyway, let's move over towards 2.2.4. There's quite a lot of improvements made in this beta patch, and we will be playing with this in the upcoming videos, of course, because, well, we're going to need to go back to Flavortown, of course, and, well, 2.2.4 will be a nice little addition to that. 2.2.4 balance. So the Galactic Market will not be founded in the first 50 years of the game, which basically means that if you are super aggressive by trying to find as many species as you possibly can very early on by sending signed ships all over the place, you will not be able to start the Galactic Market immediately, not giving you that massive advantage, which by itself is rather good. Xenophile factions now cares whether or not any pops are actually enslaved rather than the slavery policy in general. So if you have slaves, then they are upset about it. But if you just have the slavery policy enabled, it's no longer an issue for them. Increase the delay before Caravaneer fleets start roaming the galaxy. I've had instances where the Caravaneers show up within 6 months of your empire, but discovering for faster than light travel. And all of a sudden, hey, you want to buy our shit? Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. But now it's going to be delayed. I don't know what the timing on them is at the moment. I haven't taken a look at the actual code for this yet, but I'm sure that'll be fine. Increased alloy production for the relevant branch office buildings. So this is only for the various mega corporations from 2 to 3. Significantly lowered priority of drone maintenance jobs, as they were always chosen before other simple jobs, which is rather important. Drones, in this particular case, I would guess are either for the hive minds or the various robot empires. So that's probably good. Yeah, it's probably a drone maintenance job, so that's hive minds. Fix the newly promoted pops can instantly be demoted if fired within a year of promotion. This should help in case of pop banning in basic resource productions in order to take on more specialist jobs when the buildings are activated, crippling your economy. It's actually a really good change. In the past, if you turned off a building, those pops will automatically be demoted or promoted, depending on the situation. But now with this year modifier, it should make things a little bit easier. Of course, this is really open to abuse if you really think about it, but we'll see. Lowered title locked modifier, which I've never seen, at least not in a very long time. on total available planetary districts from 50% to 30%. So tightly locked planets, i.e. planets that are very close to other worlds and are stuck in their gravity field by only showing one side of the planet. Yeah, basically you lose half the tiles in that particular situation. So yeah. Syncretic species do not increase xenophile attractions. Now, syncretics, of course, are xenos that have been living on your planet for a long time. Let's say that we had Neanderthals with us, and we made them a subservient species. That would be syncretic, and apparently it increased xenophile attraction rate in the past, but that's no longer the case. Now, biotrophies. Biotrophies are a robot empire modifier. I've actually never played with those before. I would like to point out, not even since Synthetic Dawn came out almost a year and a half ago. Biotrophies are not quite upset if you don't have a biotrophy job of just laying around and doing merry fuck all while the other robots are doing all the important stuff. So you actually need to have biotrophy buildings to keep them busy. Change the size of all sectors to be 3 hyperlane jumps. In the past, this was 2 hyperlane jumps. I did have a bit of a bitch fit about this in a video. That sectors were getting a little bit too persuasive. No, not persuasive. That's not the word. Sectors don't try to convince you of something, clearly. There were too many of them, basically. So having more sectors in your outliner popping up, and I basically turned them off altogether. So having 3 hyperlane jumps in sectors is actually kind of useful because, well, it means they'll be bigger. Drone storage buildings now increase immunities instead of adding maintenance drone jobs. Fair enough. Upgraded drone storage buildings now increasing that's the exact. Oh, upgraded store. Okay, fair enough. That's the same thing. It's just the upgraded building and drone storage building. Okay, it's quite a lot of stuff on drone storage here. Drone storage building effective housing reduced from 5 to 4. So apparently they were really strong in the past. But I've heard some stories from people that really couldn't get synthetic empires to work properly. So that is a thing. But still, no, this apparently has been fixed, and we'll see whether or not it's going to be the case or not. Anyway, priest jobs now, weights now have been tweaked. So basically the output for priest jobs have been changed. Same with high priest jobs. They now also provide 2 societies, so that's nice. Reduce devastation to destroy contingency world to 50%. Interesting. So in order to destroy devastation, a contingency world, you need to devastate it by 50%. So that's useful. I've actually not seen contingency yet since 2.2, which is kind of nice considering they would pop up all the friggin' time. But that's no longer the case. Debris analyzed research per component released at 20 times level. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Culture workers, artisans, metallurgists, chemists, and transducers and gas refiners have been tweaked. Quantum states and advanced food processing technologies now require the colonial centralization technology. That's a colonial centralization technology. If you're playing a one challenge planet build, you will never even see it. So that's probably important to know. So quantum energy states and advanced food processing being locked behind that was probably not a good choice. Quantum field manipulation and nano vitality crops no longer required galactic administration. That's yet another admin tech. So that's nice. So basically these 4 techs are no longer locked behind these admin cap techs. So if you're not expanding all of a lot, these only pop up when you have two planets available or even 3. So yeah, there's a chance that in the past you wouldn't get these. Gene crop technology, no right, same thing. Several planetary modifier now force a good mineral or energy deposit to spawn. Interesting. Interesting. So certain planetary modifiers will now generate certain mineral and energy deposits. That makes sense. Some of the UI stuff added missing modifier icons. These are just icons, really. Visual spillouts. Oh yeah, the core buildings, the spillouts, that basically were overlapping. So the icons were actually bigger than the UI boxes that they were in. So that's interesting. Remove the necessary confusing close button to the Galactic GUI. Okay, interesting. Add a proper icons to improve code standards. Placeholders removed. Oh, that's a little bit awkward. And made the megastructure building menu a little bit less cramped. I still would like to see a proper overview of megastructures that are in your empire, maybe even on the expansion planner or something like that. But yeah, interesting. Fix UI, making seppuku. Okay, if you click the population tab on an inhabited world. Yeah, the population tab on inhabited worlds would do some really weird stuff. You can always roll your version back and find out what it looked like. But yeah, it would do some really weird shit. Oh, I do have a cup of tea, so now that I'm a YouTuber with more than 100,000 subs, I can clearly just drink tea on audio here, so that's good. It's a good cup of Earl Grey. Thank you, Spiffing Brit. AI. So a big bugbear for people in 2.2 is the AI. They are incredibly easy to cripple, and they are... pardon my French in advance, they are pants on head retarded in some scenarios. And thankfully, our good friend Glavius of the Glavius AI mod, who has been an absolute hero, has actually worked together with the developers to make the AI weights for population control a little bit more useful. And considering he's been working hard over Christmas, let's hope that he got properly compensated for his help. So yeah, Fixit AI can now attempt to counter piracy even at war. So piracy was a problem for the AI in the past. They wouldn't really do anything with them. They wouldn't fight them. So that's good. Made AI a lot likely to split up its fleets into portions so small it then calculates it lacks sufficient strength and will not attack when at war. Okay, so the AI would split up its fleets and then attack with them, suiciding them. And this should now be fixed. So that's nice. Lowered the threshold for the AI deciding whether or not to attack. So it should resort to a Fabian strategy of non-engagement in war. Okay. That's the Glavius stuff one. AI not repairing ruined buildings it had when it has resources to do so. Basically a whole bunch of AI economy related stuff. So yeah, that's kind of important. Stopped the AI from spamming redundant colony ships. Tweaked alloy budget for fallen empires to better match their needs. Yeah, fallen empires would not be able to build proper fleets. So once you actually capture them, the amount of income they have is actually kind of ridiculous. But then again, they have a special modifier attached to them that gives them a huge economy bonus anyway. So yeah, tweak budgeting to AI less about... Yeah, they'll hire more leaders. Performance, another big one. Performance improvement when computing pop factions. This was the big bugbear, which slowed down machines quite significantly, apparently. And this should now have been improved quite significantly, at least in the beta patch. Performance improvement using hybrid array. I do not know what a hybrid array is, but I'm sure it's important. Some more threading going on there on fleet calculation, so your CPU will use more threads on some of these fleets. Turns out that Clausewitz actually does use multi-threading. Or multi-core. Just saying. And more POPs threading for better performance. So expect more use out of your CPUs and not having everything being loaded onto one core. And that should make things a little bit easier, at least in terms of performance. We'll no longer calculate country modifiers at the end of the planetary daily update serial. Okay, so no longer will every planet be calculated on a day-by-day basis, but will most likely be done on month. But have to pass to calculate all countries that were modified after all planets updates. Yeah, it's not very clear when the calculation actually happens now, but still that's important. Improved job counting. I don't know what that means. Paralyzation. Paralyzed fleet looking for combat for slight performance increase. Okay, so there's a bunch of calculations here that are being done in parallel now. Added more threading to planet handling, optimized population calculations, reduced amount of systems in the outliner needs to check for planets to populate. Okay, interesting. So what had happened here was it probably was counting the entire galaxy rather than just the stuff in your empire. Still the branch office... So what's probably happened here, it's only looking for stuff in your empire and anything that you have branch offices in. How that actually happens is a little bit weird, because if you have a commercial pact and it runs off, the branch offices still stay, so that's interesting. Adjusted amount of extra running for micro and daily ticks. Interesting. A bunch of modding stuff, and now we get to the big ones, the bug fixes. There's quite a lot of them. We're mainly going to go through the main ones here because there's, like I mentioned, there's quite a lot of them here, and I kind of want to make sure that we go over all the big stuff because there's a bunch of stuff here that is completely and totally useless. For instance, the L cluster aliens, they said that there are strategic resources in their space that is clearly spawning somewhere else as well. So this is just wording changes. Not being able to purchase some of the unique Pneumatic Order products is good. They give you technology, they give you a policy, I think, etc., or edicts even. So that one right there is rather important. A crash that could occur when giving your fleet patrol orders in the late game. Yeah, that seems to be important. This is also an important one. Fix the terraforming swaps for geothermic vents planetary features. So what would happen is you would terraform a planet and the geothermic vents would be removed, which is obviously not a good thing. And that's now been fixed. So the whole thing about turning a planet into a Gaia world should now be a little bit easier. Apparently the Mega Art installation was broken completely, so that has now been fixed. A bunch of typos have been fixed. Okay, oh, this is an interesting one. The Caravaneers wrongly states that something will cost 1,200 alloys, but it actually is 2,000. Who would spend 2,000 alloys on anything but ships and stations? That is a huge cost thing right there. Alright, fix triplet duplicate messages about closing branch offices. Okay, event-based buildings being buildable on Thrall worlds. So those are things like any of the Leviathan buildings, for instance. Fix resource processing center improperly creating administrative jobs and all ruler stratum and Gestalt empires. Okay, so Gestalt empires could have administrative jobs. Interesting. So I would like to read out the whole thing here, and if any of you know what this actually means, then please put it down in the comments. Fix the resource processing center improperly creating administrative jobs and a ruler stratum for Gestalt empires, while someone played the Internationale on a mandolin in the dusty hills of Aragon. What the hell is... I don't even know what that is. Okay. Corporate monuments can no longer be built by Spiritus Megacorps. That makes sense, considering they have temples. Some duplicate text here. Formatting. Fix cloning vats being buildable on Resort World. Within captions, reluctantly. Yeah, I know, right? Because, you know, who wouldn't want to go to a Resort World, clone yourself, and... It's technically masturbation in this particular case. I would say, you know, it wouldn't be incest. I would say, but I'm sure the Crusader Kings 2 players amongst us would disagree. Devouring Swarm, biology bonuses, improvement of alien machine events. Interesting. Fix economic policy modifiers affecting a country's total income rather than just job output. That's interesting because economic policies are a pretty big deal, and if they only... This is also a performance increase, by the way. So what it would do previously, it would calculate every single job that was in your empire and add the modifier on top of that, and now it just takes the full output and then adds the modifier. So it has, instead of having to do 1,000 independent calculations based on jobs and the economic policy modifier, it just takes the whole and does a single calculation on it. So that's pretty big, pretty good. This right here is the big one. And I read through the patch notes earlier, even though I know that it doesn't sound like it at all. Devouring Swarms will no longer attempt to digest robots as food and will break them down into alloys instead. Let's have that sink in for a moment. It basically means that Devouring Swarms, if they are in a galaxy with robot empires, and if they are powerful enough, effectively have infinite alloys to them. That is insane. Devouring Swarms become even more overpowered. Then again, they are a Devouring Swarm and their ships should cost food instead of alloys, but hey, who am I to say these sort of things? But still, that is huge. That is huge. Like, if it was mineral, sure, but alloys, that's crazy. Okay. Some other stuff here that is not particularly important. Fixed machines sometimes rising up twice. There's only so many Terminator spin-offs that a galaxy can take. That's very true. So we've got apparently there were robotic uprising twice. That's cool. Okay, fix so the subterranean aliens event correctly spawns armies that can properly invade you. Okay, didn't know that was a thing. There's a whole bunch of weights being changed for traits and how they apply, especially for the domestic administration, brain slug, thrifty, intelligent, and a whole bunch of other stuff. They all have a lot of overlap, and they're now being calculated as separate items rather than as singular ones, so that's kind of good. Heritage Site Tech Path is now properly unlocked by rare crystals rather than volatile votes, although the leaning power tower of Pisa, made entirely of C4, would be pretty cool. Not gonna lie, that would be pretty cool. So the Heritage Site, previously you would need volatile motes, and of course, considering the volatile motes, they tend to explode. You instead need to turn the Heritage Sites, which are of course culture culture? No, they're not culture buildings. They are Unity buildings, and they require crystals instead now. So that's nice. Fix cracking or pacifying a contingency world, causing it not to be counted as to be destroyed. That has been an issue since Apocalypse came out, really. So that means that you can now put a planet destroyer on a contingency world and blow them up without getting stuck in the contingency chain. So that's good, especially in the end of the thing. Following anomalies will now clear orbital deposits if they are incompatible with the anomaly outcome. Energetic spectra, life electric, black hole hologram, dead god, white hell, and heavy metal frost. A heavy metal frost I've never seen, but basically what it does here is it will replace certain deposits. So that's nice. Overall, though, obsolete references, micro-replicators, finding the Galatron in every reliquary after getting it once, which reduced the sense of cosmic wonder a little bit. Yeah, if you get the Galatron once, and you still have reliquaries available, you only get the Galatron after it. Multiples of it, actually. And I did notice this, and this has now been fixed as well. Fix the Praetorian Scourge and Contingency Crisis, not purging pops properly. So what this means is that basically the Scourge and the Contingency would use very similar code as the Nihilistic Acquisition Ascension perk, but basically what it would do is it would purge the entire planet except for 1 or 2 pops. So they would just get stuck in orbit, and now they can actually properly destroy the entire thing. So that's good. Terraforming from Hive and machine worlds, resulting in planets with no planetary features. Yeah, that makes sense. Fix AI using the market, causing prices to always increase even when it was selling and not buying. That's good, so the market is a bit balanced more now. Shipyard construction speed modifiers not being applied to civilian ships. Fix contingency not purging. Found something at the last minute that were pop. Yeah, the last pop on a crisis. Occupied world will not be purged. We'll get it sorted, but I didn't want to make you. Yeah, so it's apparently the very last thing they added to the patch. Disabling sector automation now really disables it. Previously, it would continue to build it if you had resources. Some tooltips. Okay, DLCs are now being sent at the start of an MP. Fixes instant out of sync, so that's nice for those of you who play multiplayers. Fix the crash when hovering over an Empire comparison in the Observer mode. I haven't actually played around with Observer mode yet. I really want to. Total War is creating empty sectors. That was really annoying. Biotrophy deviancy will now no longer cause unemployment event to trigger. No will unemployed biotrophies be affected by unemployment events, which makes sense considering they don't do anything anyway, except for generating some unity. And enigmatic ascension is no longer aborted upon moving capital. Fixed a couple of literal unplayable typos regarding the Killick cooperative. So that's good. All right, so that's all done. So with these patch notes, you can, like I mentioned, you can just go into your betas in your launcher, right click on it on your game, go to betas, and then go for the test patch. You'll be able to play it with 2.2.4, at least the beta for it. In the meantime, we're gonna get these cool icons for your flags, which is, like I mentioned, always nice. But yeah, there you go, the patch notes for this particular beta patch. Looks very promising, really curious of where we're going to go in the future with this. But in the meantime, we're going to go and leave it at here. If you have any feedback on this particular patch, feel free to leave it in the comments below. And we're going to leave it at this. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and as always, each other.